Do you ever find inspiration online and you're not sure how to adapt that idea and make it your own? We're going to scraplift my friend Janice today, and I'll walk you through how I add my own style to her original design. Hey crafty friends, this is Chelsea. For today's project, I am going to use the Hello Darlin collection. This is a gorgeous summery kind of collection. You can see it looks very celebratory. I'm going to be using it to scrapbook some spring/summer photos, shopping for plants with my daughter. And so all these florals and leaves will come in really handy. I'm thinking this Hello Darlin might make an appearance as well. We'll see about that. This, of course, is my favorite paper. I love the florals. And then you can see the gorgeous starbursts. It's a really good color palette that I think could go with a bunch of different types of photos. We've got a plaid and stars. Nice bright colors. You could definitely go a nautical route with those stripes. That's what that makes me think of. And then this subtle kind of starburst pattern that could go with just about anything. I also want to bring in a sheet of the current mix-ins. This is the Apr-June mix-ins. I love this pattern. It's my favorite out of that pack. It has this really nice kind of canvas texture on the back, but I'm thinking I want to use this because I think these two together are going to look really good. So I pulled one of those in. I also have the embellishments that go with the Hello Darlin collection. I'm not sure how many of these I'm going to end up using. There's flowers, a few title options that don't really fit with what I'm doing. There is one that says smile, lots of like little branches, a few little leaves and things like that, and lots of those starburst shapes. And that's out of the paper board, so that's like really thin chipboard. And then there's also acrylic embellishments that come in that same pack. I'll just take a few out here to show you. There's banner pieces. There's a couple different styles of flowers and lots of those little bursts which you could also use for flowers. I think that would look really good mixed in with the stickers. We have some bigger like roses and lots of good options there, little hearts and everything. And then something I can't believe I haven't used yet. This is the Butterfly Slimline Embossing folder with the layering stencils. So we have the embossing folder with the butterflies, and then we have this solid layer of the stencil and then the detail layer of the stencil. Now, I love butterflies. I always have. And I was so excited when I saw this in the catalog. I can't believe it's June already and I have not used this yet. So I'm hoping to work this into this layout. I think it'll go really good with the florals and my photos. I am scrapbooking a series of photos from a trip to the greenhouse with Isabella. And of course I had to include this one of her little muddy feet and ankles after she found some puddles to splash in. This is pre-puddle splashing. That is said puddle right there. So I can't wait to scrapbook these pictures. I think the colors are just perfect to go with this paper. So I'm going to clear this off and then we can get started. This video is a collaboration with the creative design team. This week we all scraplifted each other, and I will link the playlist at the end of this video so you can check out all their projects. I'm scraplifting this layout from my friend Janice. Her style is different from mine, so I think it'll be interesting to see how my version turns out compared to hers. I started off by selecting my papers and cutting them down to size of what I thought they were. So I know my friend Janice, she doesn't like to waste paper. She likes to get the most out of her paper packs. So I cut these floral patterns down to 6 by 12, so just one sheet right in half. And then I made these pieces a little bit bigger because I knew I wanted to rip them. So that wood grain, I debated covering all of the white with wood grain, but it just wouldn't be a Janice layout or really a Chelsea layout if there's not some white cardstock somewhere. We both enjoy our white cardstock. I decided that I wanted to rip my paper to just soften those edges a little bit, and I'm going to only rip half of this piece. I could have ripped the whole top of it, but the other half of it will be hidden anyway, so I figured I'd just rip the one half, and I'm going to roll my ripped edges as well. I'm also saving paper by Those other top two patterns, I only cut them to 6 inches wide because I knew the rest would be hidden by the photos. So I'm trying to conserve this paper as much as possible. On Janice's layout, she actually had a couple of zip strips instead of this red pattern piece that's a little bit thicker, but because I wanted to rip it, and I honestly didn't want any more pattern. There's a lot of bold patterns in this pack, and I just felt like it was going to be too much. That floral pattern is already a lot, and I'm using a lot of it, and I think I'm going to add a lot of embellishments as well, so I don't want to get too many different paper layers in here, and that's why I went with the wood grain as well. It's a little bit calmer. It has that kind of white painted look to it, so I figured it would help balance out some of the busyness. So you can see already I am following the general design of Janice's layout, but I am making accommodations for the differences in our paper and for what I want out of my page. Another change I am making is I am using larger photos. So Janice had 3x3 photos on hers. I want to use 3x4 because some of mine wouldn't be cropped down into a 3x3 very well. So I am going to use a pattern paper plus a cardstock mat just like she had, but mine is taller to accommodate the extra length of my 3x4 photos. And I'm actually using Periwinkle cardstock. So there is no periwinkle listed on the colors for this paper pack, but is very clearly periwinkle. So I thought that was interesting. I am going to make this flush to the right hand side. So I just have a border of cardstock around the top, the left side, and the bottom. And to figure out the sizing, from looking at Janice's layout, it looked like there was probably about a 1/4 inch between her photo mats and about 3/8 to 1/2 inch at the top left and bottom between her photos and the edge of the pattern paper. So I just kind of took those numbers, added together the height and width of my photos to get an approximate size. And that way I wasn't wasting a bunch of paper trying to chop it up to the correct size. So I just had to do a little bit of math to figure that out first. And I also matted my photos in sapphire cardstock. There is a really thin border, like a 1/16 of an inch. So I actually trimmed down my 3x4 photos. I cut the mats at 3x4 and then slightly trimmed down my photos by like 1/8 of an inch on the top and the side. And now I'm going to start working on the embellishments that are going on this top left and bottom right corners of the photo mats. So here's that butterfly embossing folder with the coordinating stencils. I decided that I wanted to bring in some butterflies in this, so I already went ahead and embossed it on white daisy cardstock. You can see it's pretty subtle there, but now I'm going to use these layering stencils with the periwinkle ink and the sapphire ink. So I want the base layer of my butterfly, the more like solid layer, to be lighter, and I'm going to use my periwinkle ink for that. I'm going to washi tape these down into place so that stencil is not moving around on me. And then I'm going to use my ink blending brush. This works really good to get a light coat of ink, and I want it to kind of be variable. I don't want it to be a solid, like heavy coat of ink. It's going to be darker in some places, lighter in others. I'm going to make some of the smaller butterflies a little bit darker, I think, and just kind of have some variation. So thinking about my own personal style when it comes to adapting Janice's layout, I'm going to do a lot of that through the embellishments I choose to use. So your style lots of time is defined by like the colors you really like, the icons you're drawn to. Some of my favorite things are flowers and butterflies, which is very different from Janice. She is a fan of like clean lines, geometric shapes, and simple designs. She can do all kinds of things. She's flexible. And so am I. I like lots of different kinds of styles, but those are kind of our go-tos. I used to feel like it was boring to use the same icons and color palette over and over again on different pages, but then I realized that's just a part of my style, and when I make pages that have those elements, I usually like them more and they usually flow a bit easier. This layout came together pretty easily for me since I already knew where the photos were going, I knew where the papers were going, and I think that is the beauty of scrap lifting. I'm just placing the detailed stencil here over top of those butterflies. I'm going to washi tape it into place, and instead of using the blending brush again, I'm using the inking tool with the foam pad. I like it better for getting into those tiny little areas Sometimes I find the bristle brushes, the bristles kind of go underneath a little bit more, and I think this is just easier. I can get a darker coat of ink much faster. Because once I have this all inked up, I want to add a shimmer layer on top of it. This is the Stickles Moon Dust Glitter Gel, and I'm going to apply that with a palette knife and just kind of scrape it through those openings. You do want to make sure that you wash off your stencil and your palette knife right away as soon as you're done, and also recap that jar nice and tight so that it doesn't dry out. Now this is going to take a little bit to dry, so I am going to set these aside and cut them up with my scissors off camera. And if you guys are enjoying this video so far, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel and I would really appreciate it. I feel like this layout is going to need some more greenery besides what comes on the sticker sheet. So I cut out both of these leaf designs with 2 different die sets, and I cut them out on sage cardstock, which is the green that you see in that floral pattern, and I'm just giving them a little bit of shape. That first one had rounder petals, so I just used my fingers. This one I'm struggling a little bit because there's those long, thin leaves, so I'm just going to grab a little skewer here and roll the leaves around the skewer. And I love how that just adds a little bit of life and movement and shape to these flat leaves. I love having different styles of leaves available so I can mix it in with all my different flowers that I use. This Sprigs and Leaves set, I love this one. It's still available, as well as the layered flowers. Both of those are still on the website. I will link them below along with everything else. And now comes the building of the clusters. So I already knew my clusters were going to be way bigger than Janice's. I love adding and overlapping and having things under and over and adding some foam tape. So she had fairly small clusters. I'm really going to make mine quite large. And this is the fun of it, right? Arranging and tucking and moving things until you're happy with it. When I'm looking at other pages for some inspiration, I am looking at the bones of the design. So how many pictures are they? How are they arranged? What size are they? Where are the embellishments located? The title, the journaling, kind of all those key pieces that make up a layout. And once I identify those basics, then I can decide what parts of the original design I want to use on my layout. And of course, always give credit where you find your inspiration. So whether you're posting on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, if you link the original creator, tag them, just to give that acknowledgement that that's where your inspiration came from. It doesn't take anything away from your design, but it sure feels good as a creator when you see that someone else was inspired by what you created. Now, if you got inspiration from several different places, let's say maybe a color combination from one layout, photo placement from another, a background technique from someone else, and embellishment ideas from somewhere else, that's pretty hard to credit everybody, and you might not even remember where you got that inspiration. And that's sort of the creative process. There's nothing new under the sun, as they say, and you have combined all those little bits of inspiration and created something uniquely your own. So here is what I created based on Janice's layout. I have lots of little details, different textures with the acrylic pieces, the stickers, the die cuts, the paperboard bow there. Lots of things layered together. I love those sparkly little butterflies tucked into my arrangement. You can see my embellishment clusters turned out a lot bigger than Janice's. I also fit in some journaling over there because I always have to have journaling on my pages. Because of course I had to tell the story of how when she was fed up with being in the cart, she had to find the closest puddle and jump until her feet were soaking wet, and then she was cranky. So good memories, you got to have those documented along with all the pretty photos as well. Now, if you're looking for more inspiration to get you started, the Creative Design Team has a couple of sketchbooks and a new 8.5 by 11 sketchbook. I will link it down below. Make sure you check out the rest of the team's videos. They are all posted now. This is the last one in this series, so just click on that playlist there or check out one of my recent videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.